Hello, your friendly neighbourhood podcaster Sam Turner here, just popping in to say, before the show begins, that if you ever want to get in touch with us here at Staying In, then the avenues to do so are plentiful. So if you've got a question for us that you really want answered, or you just want to leave a comment on the show or something you found funny, then please get in touch. Twitter, we're at Staying In Pod. Facebook, we're at facebook.com/Staying In Podcast. And if you want to do the personal touch, then stayinginpod@gmail.com. So send in your questions. We'll do our very best to answer them. And without further ado, here it is, the Staying In Podcast. Deadpool 2, A Way Out, and the Games Media Brit List Awards. This is Staying In.
Do you want to know what I did pretty much immediately after the recording finished last time we recorded? Have a guess.
I mean, you do record in the same room as your exercise bike, so I'm thinking a quick 20k.
Absolutely not.
But I also know Pete and know he won't have done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A slow 20k? Just finished now.
So I went online.
Oh, no.
And
What did you buy?
went on to a... Dan's getting close. On this one.
Activate incognito mode.
Went into incognito mode. Signed on to a miniature wargaming table shop of choice. And
please.
I purchased... I attempted to purchase some rocks.
What do you... Oh, like, you're meaning, like, fake rocks for landscaping, aren't you?
Yeah, plastic rocks.
Pete,
Yeah.
when was the last time you went outside? Because
There's actually you live near a gravel drive.
I know, because I was going to say, like, of all the things that you're recreating in miniature, fair enough if you're looking for, like, foliage, trees, and all that kind of nonsense.
Sure.
If there's one thing that you can bring to a miniatures table to represent rocks, it's rocks.
The issue I've got there is that there aren't any really large rocks.
Pete's going to legitimately try and explain why buying rocks is better than picking up a rock.
I bet you, Sam, they only come in like half-ton bags.
Well, it's an easy thing to explain about why I have to buy a rock.
So it's just the one you bought?
There aren't any large rocks.
There are large rocks.
I can't find the question.
How large did the rock need to be? I'm curious.
It needs to be about, I'd say 3 or 4 inches tall, so quite a big bouldery kind of thing. These aren't small, tiny little fragments of rocks, which I have used to base some miniatures, my Bushido miniatures. I put little bits of gravel because they're a mountainous group. So I put little bits of shale and gravel over the top of them. But what I need is big rocks to act as scenery. Now, the fact is I can answer that very easily about why I would need to purchase a rock. What I can't answer very easily is why I would need to probably, if I can get hold of them, paint them to look more like rocks than they actually are.
I can understand that, actually. That
really
doesn't... Because sometimes you do have to superimpose things onto things to make them... Like, cell shading is in a game like in Borderlands or in 13, like... The characters looked like human, but to make them look, in the aesthetic that they're sort of in that world, in that design that they're part of, they were cell shaded. Yeah. So I can understand how you would want the rocks to look like the universe that they belong to.
Yeah.
Like have some artistic theme. That I'm fine with. The fact that you have to go online and buy rocks.
Yeah.
Considering that the last time I was at your house, there was a wall that was half collapsed outside it.
Yeah, I need rocks, not bricks.
Can I just check, Pete? Can I just check Sam's explanation as to why you would paint the rocks?
Yeah,
you've obviously just gone along with that. Is that the truth, or is there more of an embarrassing reason why you need to paint them? Are you just accepting Sam's sensible option?
Let's just accept Sam's sensible option on this one.
What did you paint? What was it? You painted grass on the top.
Well, there will be some of that. But here's the thing: Here's the thing: I attempted to purchase rocks, but divine intervention got in the way, and unfortunately the rocks were sold out. The rocks were sold out, so now I don't have them. So that's the thing. It's next on my hit list.
Only there was some place that you could get things that look like rocks
for free.
That you even better if you don't have to paint them to look like rocks.
Where's your nearest home base?
Does not surprise me that Pete has no idea where the nearest home base is.
I'll be honest. There are certain locations in Bristol that I wouldn't be able to tell you where they are. Home base is one of them. The football stadium is one of
Where's
them.
the nearest Games Workshop?
I can tell you exactly where all the modelling stores are.
But you see, Pete, I know, joking aside, like, I actually find that really interesting. Like, when we were kids, like, my brother and I started to kind of build like a model railway thing. We never succeeded. We never carried on with it. We got bored. But like, we watched and read tons of like, videos and guides on like the craft in creating miniature versions of things. I find that really interesting. Like, I remember watching like the Lord of the Rings making of the bigatures in Lord of the Rings.
It was like the Blue Peter thing with the miniature Tracy Island.
Yeah.
Thunderbirds. That was just huge.
So are you two saying that you would theoretically be interested?
No.
I'd be interested in contributing to this midlife crisis. I wouldn't necessarily be interested in.
Okay.
Like, myself, like, I'm fascinated by the artistry in there, and it is genuine artistry, the people that create this. There is something about looking at, whether it be a model village, a model city, model railway, model whatever. Like, I remember, when you walk into Games Workshop, it's the first thing that draws the eye. It is that, that attention to detail and that craft. You don't know what the rules are; they're impenetrable, but there's something really interesting going on there, and we can joke about, yes, you're buying rocks, but it's funny, like, just how, like, a few rocks are enough, kind of like classic Star Trek, to suggest another world.
They will make my scene complete. I promise.
I do like the idea of kind of imagining these kind of elegant, kind of amazing miniature structures and model villages and all these kind of such intricate detail, and then kind of smash cut to Pete sat in his bedroom painting grass on a rock.
So, Pete, what is the setting? What is the final picture going to look like? If you had to describe this landscape that you're going to build, what is it going to look like?
I'll be honest. I'm trying to get to a point where I'm actually taking it quite slowly. Like, this is one of the hobbies where
this is unusual for you.
Where people like dive in both feet first. But actually, I'm not going to full force on this. What I wanted was a couple of bits of rock scenery so that I could, because I need play pieces, because I need blocking play pieces to like block line of sight. Because otherwise, you've basically just got like a flat area, and that's not very interesting. But I'm not going whole hog, like at the back of the Bushido rule book and stuff like that. There's like, here's how to make a paddy field, and you're like, great, like, and every single part of me is like,
cutting up rice to get it small enough.
Yeah, exactly. But like every part of me is like, I could totally make a 3 foot by 3 foot scenario where I could do it. And then, but actually I'm like, you know what, that isn't me. And like, I'm not, so I'm just taking it one step at a time.
So so basically there is a line there that you're not willing to cross.
I've got the solution for you.
Yeah, what's that?
It's also, could be the best mashup in board games.
I know what you're going to say, Sam. I know what you're going to say.
We're genius from the same line.
That's not a thing.
What?
That's not a thing, Sam.
That you take your wonderful partner has made a 3D Catan board.
Yep.
Which is already full of different landscapes and topographies, quarries, mountains, fields.
Yeah.
And he used that as your Bushido board.
Yeah, totally wrong scale, but yeah, absolutely.
See, Sam,
well, I'm trying. I'm trying. You're going on the internet and buying bloody rocks. I'm just suggesting stuff that might help you out of this funk.
Yeah, let's not mince words. This is an intervention.
I mean, what are the rules of rock placement on a Bushido board? Because can't you just say, yeah, here's my board, dump a load of quarry material on it and go, good luck with line of sight with this one,
Sorry. Can I just activate my nerd voice just for a second? My other nerd voice. there are specific rules for placing scenery, because obviously you get an advantage. If I was the only person who was building the map, I could be like, right, I'm placing them all here because I get a load of advantages. But basically, you come with specific pieces of scenery, and player 1 picks the first piece of scenery and goes, I will place this here. Player 2 places the next piece of scenery, and that's how you figure it out. It's all very pleasant.
As Sam says, the version of Catan that you have, this 3D version, does split up into all the components, so obviously you can put it in various different ways. You say it's the wrong ratio. Surely when you're building the board, you decide the ratio.
No, it's the wrong ratio to Bushido characters. Like the Bushido characters is as high. Basically, a Bushido character, a Catan mountain, is twice as big as it, which I think is what he means.
So
by
basically,
size.
in miniatures, basically you get certain different scales, and that means that. In my thing, if we were to go with that, if we were to say, okay, this is the scale that we're working at, then the tiny little sheep that are hanging out on the little on the hex, either each Bushido character is like 100 foot tall, or the little sheep are like tiny little ants, basically.
They're all lambs.
How small do you think lambs are?
So how big is this mountain you're going to build?
No, but it's ratio. It's a scale. So like it just the mountain just needs to be big enough to block the line of sight.
Also,
from
just
the character.
Also, here's how not 2 feet first into this. I'm not building a mountain. There are mountain people, but like all I want is a couple of little rocks. That's really all I need. All I want really is something that isn't like beer bottles and packets of crisps as scenery.
It's a similar principle to kind of like in Memoir 44, Sam, when you kind of put the map out at the beginning and you've got like lines of sight there, but that's just flat cardboard discs.
Yeah, you've got to use that word that Pete hates.
Go on.
Got to use your imagination.
So we all got to meet in London, and we had a lovely evening.
Yeah, it was a flying visit, but it was lovely. It was a particularly flying visit for you, Pete.
Yeah.
Pete came all the way to London and spent about an hour with us.
Yeah, well, listen. Let's be clear now, right? It wasn't that like we got together, spent the same amount of time in the same area, but I completely blanked you all. I was coming from Bristol to London for what are they called? The Games Media Brit List Awards that we got nominated for. And when we attended them, I knew that I would have to get back to Bristol because I had a busy day of work the next day and also a little bit of sword fighting in the evening. So I had to get back. So I turned up at like 5 p.m. because my train got in way too early. So I went and sat in a bar and sat with nobody for like an hour and a half. Then
I think it's important to say that you've finished the book now, haven't you?
Oh, the book was finished before I made that journey, honestly.
Which is why you were so early.
I think,
exactly, yeah.
The rail gods, the travel gods, decided to equalise a little bit. Over-equalise, I would say. So sat in a bar for like an hour and met up with nobody, and then managed to hang out with an ex-colleague, pal of mine called Jake, and we hung out and I had a lemonade. That was very nice.
Rockstar.
And then we met up at the at the Rich Mix, which is a posh venue near Shoreditch in London. But I was only able to be there until like 9 p.m. and then I had to go and get a train home, which is unfortunate considering the reception started at 7 and the awards started bang on 9. So I missed the entire awards ceremony. I want to know, like, what was the atmosphere from, like, because 7 till 9 was great.
Yeah, 7 till 9 was brilliant because basically 7 till 9 was made up of a couple of things.
Right.
First of all was obviously meeting up and reminiscing and being the only people in the room who were playing Trailblazers. Which was one of the sponsors of the event, and they lined all the back room with like 8 or 10 PS4s, all demoing this game from Rising Star called Trailblazers, which was all right. It was an all right game.
Yeah,
so sort of like a mix between Splatoon and Wipeout in a weird way. And the other part of the evening was made up of watching Kris trying to find and apprehend every single person he could find that had pizza. Because we were promised on the invitation pizza, and Chris's first words when we went into the room was, "Where's the pizza? But where's the pizza? We were promised pizza." And he would not shut up about it. And then finally, this poor woman came up to us with pizza on the plate, and Kris was just literally launched, and from then on
pounced on her.
And then from then on, he was just like, we were having, at one point we met up with the lovely Simon Miller. Great to meet him. First time, I think, except for Pete, that we've all met him in the flesh, and we had a wonderful chat. He was a host, and he did a stand-up job. Kris, at one point, left that conversation halfway through because he spotted someone had pizza, and he ate it, even when it had ingredients on it that he didn't even like.
It was like a plague of locusts.
The person with the pizza was on the other side of the room. It wasn't they were passing by.
No, I think, and I'm not lying, I was the only one who actually went to them.
It was like a Looney Tunes cartoon where Wile E. Coyote smells like a nice barbecue flavour and like floats along over to it.
My favourite bit was when Kris got a pizza that he didn't like, his tactic was to roll it up into a tight sort of like Swiss roll of pizza and just like pretty much put it in his mouth as one.
Well, yeah, like some sort of like giant egg eating cobra.
Yeah. I don't like this.
Just like distending his jaw, just like. Now we were. Dan, we were keeping we were keeping count, and I think you were having a bit of a, because you seem to think you can eat more pizza than Kris can. I found this out.
Dan can. Dan can.
We've very much established in this podcast that Kris eats more than should be humanly possible.
I think that's known.
Except for soup.
Yeah.
Except for soup. We never brought this up after we talked about the European holiday, but we found out because when we had the Thai meal, these guys had like a set menu. And the second dish on the set menu was like chicken noodle soup or something like that. I have never seen Kris struggle with a food so much as I saw him. And considering that soup is just flavoured water, like Kris was halfway through it going, I can't finish this.
It's honestly, it's like a cattle grid for my stomach.
Yeah, it was
it was just incredible. Like the complete. If you ever thought of what food would fill Kris up, you think like, 4 racks of ribs or a 10-pound burger, not soup.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he can eat a lot.
But yeah, as we've established, Kris can eat an awful lot.
Yeah.
But I do think, and I couldn't match Kris for the majority of things. The one area I'm fairly confident I could go toe to toe and even surpass is with pizza. With me, pizza doesn't hit the sides.
You see, that really surprised me. I've known you for years, and I just did not know that. There was a bit where obviously Kris was actively seeking the pizza out, Dan, and I think so. Maybe he's got a bit of a head start there. But what was the end slice count by the end of the evening?
My understanding is the end slice count was Kris ended on, and I should say ended because they stopped bringing pizza.
Yeah. Okay. They actually started avoiding me.
The reason that I didn't reach Chris's total or where we got to, because I just ran out of pizza to have. Kris ended up with having had 7 pieces,
right,
and I finished with 6, and I was very, very annoyed at that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Dan, it was a bit surreal for us, that experience, because we didn't really know anyone.
Yeah.
And particularly with podcasting, even people we'd listened to who were nominated like us, we wouldn't know necessarily what they looked like.
Yeah.
No.
If we overheard them, maybe we'd be able to recognise them. So it was a kind of a surreal experience for us, really, in that regard.
And because of the event as well is like an industry event, when we actually went into the award ceremony, when Pete ditched us, like it was very evident that like it was like an awards event. Like most of the sort of themes of the night were, if you told yourself 15 years ago that you were making a living talking about video games, you probably would have like laughed and like you should be really proud of what you've done. And that was kind of one of the messages that Simon Miller wanted to get across. And I spoke briefly to Chris Bratt, who's just left Eurogamer to start his own project, very courageously. And like I was explaining to him, like for us, we're fans of the medium. Like this isn't our living. We're completely fishes out of water in this environment because like we have day jobs. Like this is a hobby. Like we've been doing this for 10 years almost, and like all we do it for is the fact that like we like hanging out, and sometimes we play and we talk about games. So in that sense, is like the environment was a little bit weird because everyone knew each other. It was, you know, everyone was kind of in that industry, in that sort of wheelhouse. So it was like we were there as fans rather than like beneficiaries of it from an industry standpoint.
There were quite a few kind of in-jokes and kind of references to other people that, I don't know, but you guys kind of went over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
completely.
Did.
I noticed that you guys had absolutely no qualms with picking up the swag bag.
No,
absolutely.
Got my swag bag.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Straight in. What was in the swag bag?
A yo-yo,
which you got out in the tube literally as soon as we left.
Yeah. And then when I got home, I spent exactly 5 minutes with it and then put it in the bin.
Nice.
We got a free hour at a Beyond experience at game, which I think Beyond is their like
Belong.
Belong. What did I say?
Beyond?
Oh, Belong, yeah.
Yeah.
And it accompanied with a lanyard as well, didn't we?
Yeah,
Right.
that lanyard, right? Because I used to have a lanyard on my keys, which was from where I work, and at work we're always kind of told about be careful about what you wear on yourself when you're out and about. That denotes that you're from this particular British corporation that deals with broadcasting, and because not everyone likes it.
Sure.
So when I got this new lanyard that just said Belong on it, I thought, oh, that's pretty, you know, atonal. There's no sort of big significance about it. It's just a lanyard. I'll swap them out. Because I have a lanyard on my keys not for any reason other than it creates added bulk so I don't lose them.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't want to have like a massive key ring on my keys. I just like want some added bulk so I don't lose them. And that's it. I went to go and get my car MOT'd the other day, and there I was, sitting in the little waiting room, listening to Heart FM, reading the second book in the Expanse series, feeling very manly, and the guy came to me to go, "Oh, your car's passed. I'll just go and get your keys. Are these yours?" And he was like dangling them from the lanyard. I went, yeah, the ones on the necklace. I was like, oh.
Oh no.
So yeah.
We should probably say we didn't win. that was kind of like, weirdly, like that was the least, like we went in going, well, we're not going to, but it would be a nice time. But our pals did.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. Dan, have you got an exit?
He does, yeah.
I've got one of those.
They're really good.
What is it? Have you played it? Wait.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I got.
Wait. Hold on a second. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Wait a second. Hold on.
I'm holding.
Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I've got the one called Secret Lab, so please don't spoil any of it for me. What have you got? No, the Secret Lab.
So I'd actually got for my birthday in February, I got two games of Exit the Game. There's a series of games. I'd actually first heard about it. I saw it at a friend's house a good couple of months ago, and when I saw it, and it was in a board game which basically creates the sense of an escape room, meant to be played cooperatively. I did look at it and think this is a game basically designed with us in mind.
Right.
And I think Sam, you'd already played it. And then
yeah,
for my birthday, I got two of these. So I've got the Secret Lab, which I haven't played yet.
Okay.
And Pete, that's one you've got.
Okay.
The one I played just the other day is called The Abandoned Cabin. And the way these games work, me and my wife played it, and it was a really enjoyable experience. It's based on cards, so it's a card game, but it's all about kind of riddles and answering puzzles, solving puzzles, answering riddles, and when you do that, if you answer correctly, you're led on to a second puzzle, and a third puzzle, and a fourth puzzle. I think you end up doing about like 11 or 12 puzzles. And it's kind of a one and done game, so sometimes you'll be cutting up cards or tearing cards. So it's a really small game, but it's a really, really enjoyable experience. It takes an hour, 2 hours. That's it. It's very much you do in an evening. You don't stretch out any longer than that. And yeah, me and my wife played, and she enjoys board games, but not really kind of that much. I kind of struggle to kind of play many games with her.
She's not painting rocks.
Yeah, she's not into that yet. But she really liked the idea of kind of the answering puzzles and trying to work it out yourself and working together to discuss things. So, for example, she's really enjoyed Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And it was just a really fun experience. I mean, the abandoned cabin, the conceit of that is you've broken down in the middle of the night. Rather than stay in your car, you've tried to find shelter somewhere, and you found this cabin. You stay there overnight, and when you wake up in the morning, the door is locked, and there are bars in all the windows. And you're left with a note saying basically you've got to find your way out, or bad things are going to happen.
Oh, no.
Basically. So that's kind of the conceit of that, and then that's the gives you the impetus to then go through the game, and you're given the first riddle, and then that leads you on to another one. There's a game book which has got various different puzzles within it as well. So you use all of these components together to answer various riddles, and riddles will happen at different times. You might need several riddles, the answers of them, to create one answer, because the idea of the game is you're unlocking lockboxes, very similar to an escape room, where you're kind of putting in codes and unlocking padlocks and stuff like that. So throughout the game, these riddles are giving you numbers or giving you certain elements of information which will lead you to unlocking these padlocks. And when you've unlocked one, you can put that one to one side. That one's taken care of. Let's move on. Let's answer some more. And then you can time it. You can see how well you've done. And there's help cards if you're struggling. It's a really, really fun, really accessible, really quick and enjoyable kind of an evening's entertainment. We sat on the sofa the other day. Me and my wife were both sitting on the sofa, both looking at our phones, and we both almost simultaneously went, should we play a game? Because we got these, and we're like, should we play a game? She's like, yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Chris, you haven't played it, but I know, Sam, you have. How many of these have you played?
Just the one, and I've got another one. I've got the Pharaoh's Tomb in its shrink wrapping in a drawer, which could be a good thing that we can pop out when we're all together again. There was two that came out quite close together. There was Escape, and there was Exit, and there was Unlock from Space Cowboys, and Unlock is a very similar experience, but also very different. Where Unlock is different because it's a game that can be played again, whereas Exit is a game, as Dan said, that you have one shot at it and then it's done, because everything's a lot more tactile, which I think is what I like about those games more than Unlock, where everything's done on an app, and when you think you've solved something, you type a code into an app and it tells you whether you've succeeded or not. Some of the situations in the Unlock ones are quite interesting and amusing, and we've done them in we went to Sugar and Dice and did most of them, didn't we, Chris? And that's a scenario I'd be happy doing some more of those in, the Unlock ones. And if you like escape rooms, then Unlock's really good, because one of you could buy it and then just hand it on to the next person to do it, and it is just a deck of cards. It's just a deck of cards and an app, and it's fun. But Exit, I think, the one thing I love about escape rooms is, and the best escape rooms that I've ever done, are the ones that are really tactile and really logical, and which is why I love the one that we did in Budapest so much, because that was just a completely tactile experience. And Exit, I mean, Dan's pretty much said it all, but it's the simplicity of it is what's wonderful, is the fact that each puzzle has its own sort of mini deck within it, and if you're stuck on it, then you go to that deck to ask for a hint. And that's what I like about it, rather than the Unlock series, is this tactility, but also the hint system feels a lot more personal to the puzzle that you're actually doing. Like the best escape rooms, when that hint system is really good, you don't feel cheated out of that experience. So can I just talk about the best multiplayer experience I've had this year, the funniest multiplayer experience I've had so far, 2018?
2018, of course, brought us hunkering.
It did bring us hunkering.
So
certainly did.
Let's be careful.
I don't remember last time I laughed as much as when we spent about 2 hours crouched in a bush while people around us killed each other.
What fun.
So what is...
And the time when Sam got trapped under the floorboards of basically, like it was just 3 people left and Sam was one of them who was hidden underneath the floorboards.
That was the only time and the last time I've had fun playing Fortnite. So.
What could be more fun than that?
Right. 3 words.
Yeah.
The way out.
No, Chris, it's our way out. But
Jesus.
Oh, fuck.
Jesus, I'll let you have that.
3 words. One of them's a letter.
Yeah. What are they?
A way out.
A way out. Right.
A way out. Yeah.
So
and this is from Hazelight Studios.
Okay.
So for those who have played A Brother's Tale of Two Sons, this is from a Swedish company.
Oh.
So Brother's Tale of Two Sons, very quickly, was this really quite interesting platformer where you played 2 brothers and one brother was controlled by one half of the controller and the other brother was controlled by the other half of the controller.
Yeah,
so
it was really good.
It was this kind of patting your head, rubbing your stomach kind of thing, multitasking, literally, and platforming.
It was The Adventures of Cookies and Cream, but in the late to mid 2010s.
Did not know that.
Yeah, a load of people will go, oh yeah, I remember Kuri Kuri Mix. That was really, really good.
A load? 1 or 2?
I am not one of those 1 or 2.
So Electronic Arts are impressed with the work they did on that, and they financed them to develop a new game. And it's kind of been a labour of love for this, for the writer and director Joseph Fares, who it is a split-screen multiplayer co-op, third person, where you play as 2 prisoners, so Leo and Vincent. So I played as Vincent, who's just been entered prison, and Sam was Leo, who has been in prison numerous times, and he's back in prison. And I see that Sam's already in prison, and he's watching the new inmates arrive, and I'm one of those new inmates. And as I'm entering, to my right, I can see Sam, what he's looking at, and he's looking at me enter. So it's really weird. You become the kind of CCTV for the other person, which really comes in handy, because quickly you 2 meet, and you hatch a plot, and that is to escape prison. And the whole mechanic of this game relies on you being able to kind of have each other's back. And what's really lovely is that each of us has 2 different personalities, which will affect the ways in which we attempt to solve problems and address certain tasks. So Sam's character of Leo is kind of very much a man of action, I would say. And whereas mine is much more, he's got the gift of the gab. He likes to talk his way out of situations. And there are a few instances where we'll have done something and then afterwards we'll realise, actually, we could have just done it this way. Like there was a sequence, Sam, where I was about to pounce on 2 security guards from behind. And he said, well, actually, you don't need to go that way. You can just come around this way. I'll just open the door for you.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So already there's replayability there. I really want to go back in and play it from, say, Sam's point of view, or do it with the same characters. And instead of going with Sam's idea, we go with my idea and see how that plays out. And it's so much fun. And it's absolutely hilarious because a lot of the time it is me, keeping watch while Sam has to do something. Like he has to pass the file over to me while his cell's been inspected by the prison guard, say, for example. It took a few attempts. There's a bit of trial and error. But it's one of those games where it's what I want from a multiplayer game, where the narrative is really ropey, really dodgy. We talked about it, Sam. It's basically a Jerry Bruckheimer film. It's not the most sophisticated narrative, but the gameplay is really polished and it's really rock solid and robust. So it's the kind of game I want from a multiplayer experience, kind of like Lost Planet 2, where it's pretty solid, but there are problems with it that you can just go with it. I say go, you can just go along with it and just have a laugh with it. And we've had tons of laughs with that. Another perk is only one of you needs to own a copy of it. And the other person can kind of join in and play that with you. So that's really convenient in that regard to be able to do that. It's a lot of fun. It's a really interesting way of doing this. There's been genuinely some really cool sequences where like Sam will go into a cutscene and he can just put his controller down and watch a cutscene. Whereas meanwhile, I can move around and move into that cutscene. You know how sometimes AI characters do that, like in Assassin's Creed. You go into a cutscene and then the AI will just walk through your cutscene. But I can actually do that now. And I can carry on playing the game while Sam's in that cutscene. Right. And sometimes I need to be there because Sam may have got himself into difficulties and I need to be there to make sure that I can get him out of it. So it just kind of when at its best, it's beautifully choreographed. There's brilliant chase sequences in this where we'll be going our separate way, and suddenly the game will throw us together. Sometimes Sam's screen will open out and fill my screen, and I'm done, and I'm watching him. And then sometimes the screen will split into three, and then the security guards appear on the top one. So it's like watching. It's like CCTV at the same time. It's a really interesting dynamic. You feel watching like a storyboard or a comic book come to life as you're playing it. It's a really interesting experience.
Sounds like playing a game of 24.
Yeah.
24 used to do that thing where you would watch a scene, but you'd have three angles on screen at the same time. That kind of thing.
Definitely. That's pretty much what it is, with a script written by, or produced at least by, Jerry Bruckheimer.
And produced by Joel Silver.
Yeah, it's just absolutely the shonkiest. The script is absolutely awful.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean awful?
Well,
like,
Sam, give him your favourite line.
Oh yeah, well, the script is shonky because he will do a character will say something like, I didn't mean to do that to Gary, my brother, family, and it's like,
right, yeah.
So it's like they kind of say things that they shouldn't.
A lot of exposition.
Yeah, if they were really talking to their family about Gary, they wouldn't say he's my brother.
Right.
And like lots of like some of the talk between the guards, like as they're like filling time. There's one conversation that the guards have, which is like, "Oh, did you see the John Peters show last night?" And the other guy goes, "No, I didn't. Who was on it?" And the guy returns with, "I don't know. I can't remember." It's like...
And then they went back to that same conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so funny when, Sam was talking about God of War last episode about, how sophisticated that narrative was, that you could walk away from a character and then you come back and they'd pick up that narrative and it would just be seamless. This is the complete opposite.
Talking about how good the God of War narrative is, I was playing it the other day, and Kratos and his son had an argument, and now they're super sulky to each other,
right.
Which kind of makes doing stuff in the game really awkward, because it's kind of like, "Atreus, will you go up there?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, Dad." It's just like, oh, great. This is fun. But yeah, in A Way Out, but I think that's kind of the aesthetic. I kind of want to believe that's the aesthetic they want to go for. It's like you're playing The Rock or Con Air or, National Treasure. Like, it has that really sort of 90s Hollywood aesthetic to it. There's this one scene in a hospital which is entirely done via a tracking shot. The camera never cuts away. And it switches from Chris's character to my character as we're being chased around this hospital. So I'll like jump out of a window into a room, and then the camera will fly off into the next room, seeing like Chris's character run into it and run past me, and then it will like be Chris's turn to like try and escape from the cops. So it does do some really, really interesting things with like the narrative, and does wear its influences on its sleeve. Like there's a scene directly ripped out of Casino Royale. There's another scene directly ripped out of Old Boy, and it's really fun to take these like shonky, like cut out paper, like cardboard characters into this like weird sort of Hollywood film. And as Kris said, we've had the most fun, like just laughing at these characters and like the situations that they get into.
Gotcha.
It's been so much fun, and like you always play split screen, no matter if you're playing locally or online. So we've played locally and online, and there's been really no difference in that experience, which is another thing I think that it achieves well being in a co-op game. You don't feel like you've lost anything from not having your friend on your couch next to you. The experience is still just as valid and still just as worthwhile, even if you can't be in the same room next to each other. And it's a shame like a game like Chariot doesn't, like, I'd love to play that a lot more, but it's only local. So I don't get to play that as much as I would with like Kris or anyone else. And like before this, that was one of my favourite multiplayer experiences, but it's strictly local. And I think A Way Out its massive technical achievement is being able to pull that off, especially by just being someone only has to have one copy. So that immediately breaks down that barrier of only having like online play.
But no, it's every cliche in the book, shamelessly. But I don't care. It's just so much fun, and the gameplay is so robust. I can't recommend it enough if you fancy a laugh. And you want a really good, fun multiplayer experience that is unique, even though its narrative isn't, then yeah, A Way Out. Totally should go for it. Or you just wait and then I give it to you.
I was going to say, like, I'm assuming there's not a lot of, like, you're not going to go back to it again and again and again and again, right?
I don't know. To be honest, I was saying this to Dan the other day, like, I'd happily play it with Dan. Or you, Pete, and just swap characters and make different decisions. Like, it's just, honestly, there are moments in this, like the hospital sequence, where it's just so much fun anyway. It's like why I go back and replay certain bits in Uncharted, because it is just so much fun. You've just got this big grin on your face.
Have you seen Deadpool 2, Sam? Honestly.
Yeah, I have.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I've seen it.
I didn't think it was out yet.
It came out last Friday, yeah, Friday.
Yeah,
I saw it on Monday, and it was still pretty fresh then.
Because Sam, I think you and Pete are probably the most ardent Deadpool readers.
Alex is, not me.
Okay, no. I just saw the copies of Deadpool on your shelves, so I assume it was you, Pete.
Yeah, that's because you're an everyday sexist. There's, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, no, Alex is well into Deadpool. I like the Deadpool stuff well enough, but it's just not something I've particularly read or anything like that.
He is great.
Yeah, he is great, and we named our rabbit after the fact that he likes eating tacos.
That's why taco's called taco.
Well, his favourite food is chimichanga, but
yeah, I know, but he talks a lot about tacos. So
chimichanga the rabbit just doesn't really work, does it?
Chimichanga.
Chimmy's
a good name.
Changa.
You should have got two rabbits called one Chimmy, called one Changa.
Yeah, but then what happens when one of them dies?
Then you've just got Chimmy or Changa.
Well, you get another one and call it Chimmy 2.
No, it feels wrong. Don't like it.
Chimmy 2 Changa.
Don't like it. The rule for my rule for naming pets is single, like a name of food, but single name of food. Like not you can't have two of them and have like, you know, Rice and Krispies or whatever it is. Like it's got to be individual things. So
hang on. You did your puppy in Free Realms was not named after food, was he?
That's the only one. That's the only time I've ever named it a non-food.
Oh, Rascal!
Yeah, Rascal.
Is that why he broke your heart?
Oh, yeah, he broke my little heart.
Rest in peace.
Oh, bless him.
You see, as a person who eats almost constantly, that would really frustrate me.
Unless you called all your animals after soups.
Yeah.
So you got gazpacho,
Go on.
Minestrone,
Yeah.
Oxtail.
chicken and asparagus.
Yeah. Actually, some great names.
These are great. Oxtail is a great name. Great name for a
Campbell.
For a cat.
Campbell. Chunky.
Heinz. You should absolutely call your pet Heinz.
Heinz is a great name for. I would say Heinz is like a dog. Heinz is like
You need to get 57 pets, though, Pete.
Yeah.
Okay, look, we've danced around the topic. Sam, is Deadpool 2 any good? Shall I be going to it now? After we finish this pod.
What was your thoughts on the first one?
Oh, the first one, loved it.
Yeah,
Breath of fresh air.
I really like
Brilliant.
the first one. Yeah, it's really good.
The first one did a lot right with Deadpool's character. Like he's an exceptionally difficult character to write because he could be very, very annoying. Like when you have a character that just all it does is quips all the time. Yeah. If you're not writing him really well, then you really struggle to make a connection with the audience because at some point you need to have some sort of emotional or dramatic hook to keep the audience involved.
Yeah.
Brian Posehn's and Jerry Duggan's Deadpool run is exemplary for this. Like the way that they managed to capture Deadpool's personality and the fact that he doesn't take anything seriously, but yet put him in a serious situation is it's exceptionally well written. And I've just finished reading Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which is another great example of a character like Deadpool put in a situation and kind of like seeing how he handles it with his psyche. It's really interesting. So in Deadpool, I think they got that absolutely spot on. But Deadpool 2 is very much a victim of the previous film's success. In a lot of ways. Firstly, I don't think they were expecting ever to make Deadpool 2. So how they left... I think they would have finished Deadpool, the first Deadpool, differently if they knew that they were definitely going to get a sequel. Those first 20 minutes are just really slow and sluggish, and like it's doing things that have been done in 100 superhero films before it, which feels really weird when it's Deadpool, when his whole shtick is trying to stick it to the tropes and to the stereotypes that have come before him. So that's a bit of a shame, and you feel watching it like there could have been a lot of other things that they could have maybe done to get Deadpool where they wanted him to be, both emotionally and narrative-wise in the story. Also, I think it's definitely a victim of coming very, very soon after Avengers.
Right.
Like, if I feel like this could have done with another 3 or 4 months just waiting to come out. But I understand why, like, Fox wants to get a bit of that pie again, and this film was... like the writing on this film finished before even Logan was out. So like it's been in the can, I feel, for a really long time and just kind of been hanging around. But after Avengers and Infinity War, it kind of feels like a bit of a step back in terms of where we are at now in what a superhero movie is. Like Infinity War was just tonally really well placed and exceptionally well balanced in terms of like action and comedy, that when Deadpool 2 takes a misstep, like with the first 20 minutes or at some other points in the films, like they're really noticeable, because Infinity War managed to pull that off really, really well. Saying that though, like when Deadpool 2 shines, it really shines. Like it is really fun film. It just didn't hit me like as a massive surprise as the last one did. Like I think everyone was expecting with the last one for it to be a failure, for them not to really get the character right, for them to make mistakes, but it just was such a massive surprise. With this one, that because that surprise is not there, I think myself, I was a lot more aware of the flaws and the mistakes that it was making. Right. But there are some genuine laughs, and there's like stuff that he does, especially with X-Force, that you will not be expecting whatsoever. And I'm really excited now for the third film, because I think Cable is the perfect like straight man to Deadpool, and he's kind of what I felt like if they'd had a sequel, they would have brought Cable in a lot sooner to it, because he's kind of what Deadpool needs as a character to put him in those situations that he probably wouldn't naturally put himself in. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, he's the Eric, he's the Ernie to the Eric, and the
Bert to the Ernie.
Bert to the Ernie, yeah.
That's the best one, actually, Pete, yeah.
Because Cable is so straight-laced and kind of like with a stick up his own ass. Like he's a kind of person who like has a love-hate relationship for Deadpool, and I feel like in the third film that's going to be what shines on the screen and work really well. So yeah, definitely worth seeing. Definitely.
So, Sam,
yeah.
Usually, what happens when you've got like characters where the first film has been particularly edgy and quite mature and quite adult in terms of its content, you sometimes get in the sequels a kind of a softening. Has that happened in the second film?
I would have actually said sometimes the opposite is true, where sometimes when they've made an edgy first film and it's been successful, then they lean into that and perhaps lean in too far. the one that stands out is the Kick-Ass film, where the first one was quite edgy and is similar to kind of some of the stuff with Deadpool. And then it's the same, don't get me wrong, I think it's the same with the comic. I think in the second one, it goes to some really dark places that I think just maybe tonally didn't sit well. And I think sometimes they can go the other direction and really lean into the edginess and lose that sweet spot that they've hit in that first one.
The problem that they have, going back to the comics, is so for example, like in Duggan and Pacine's run, Deadpool as a character deals a lot with the fact that like he may have gone back in time or in the 70s or something while he was pretending to be Iron Man but drunk. He had sex with someone on a snooker table and he may or may not have had a daughter,
right?
And then like that plays on his mind, but quite a lot of the internalization Deadpool is done by voices in his head, and I think that's one thing that the films couldn't do, especially of a film, because I feel like dealing with that sort of mental health issue is a bit of a dicey area to do in like an hour and a half, 2 hours on film, whereas over 4 or 5 volumes of a comic book, like they earn that, how they treat that and how they frame the character. And I think that's the best way that the comics have done it, like put Deadpool in that situation. Like they've really played with either his like serious issues with mental health, like always pushing down his emotions so far that what bubbles back up is serious symptoms of voices in the head and, you know, serious mental health problems, or he's dealing directly with the meta of being in a comic book. And in Deadpool 2, they don't do that for whatever reason. Instead, they just give him a very bland narrative reason to put him in that situation. It's just a shame. It just kills like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and it spends a long time trying to get back to where it was. That it never really hits that rides the same wave that the first one did.
Netflix and chill.
So would you say you're giving it 1 thumb up, 1 kind of half thumb to the side? As opposed to 2 thumbs up?
Yeah, probably. Well, kind of like for the first 20 minutes, no thumbs up, and then by like halfway through, 1 thumb up, and then by the end, like 2 thumbs up.
So really, it's in the listener's best interest to arrive late to the screen.
Pete, have you put Magic the Gathering again on the list?
Yeah. We talk about things multiple times.
Haven't we talked about it like 3 times already?
No, well, we can talk about Magic the Gathering as many times as we want. It's our podcast, Dan. You and I, we can do anything we want. Anything.
I don't want to talk about Magic the Gathering.
Do you not? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do all the talking for you. No, I just like Sam and I have been playing a bit more. I think it's right to say we've been playing a little bit more of Magic the Gathering Arena, which is the digital version.
It is right to say. And
I have been playing, and as part of that, we've been playing Dominaria, which is the it's the latest of the sets of cards. So Magic has blocks of cards, and then new blocks of cards come in, and then there's a constantly evolving set of cards, and they're usually based around a theme. And the latest one is Dominaria, where they go back to the original planes from the original series, and they make a load of like references to original Magic and kind of things like that. That's
how do you acquire these cards?
How do I acquire these cards?
They just appear like these are now active. Or do you unlock them with the more games you play? How does that work?
So in the physical way, you either go and purchase some, or you email Wizards of the Coast and say, "Could you send me some?" Either of those things are available. And then the other one is digitally. Dominaria set unlocked for purchase. So the arena, which is still in beta at the moment, is now accepting people's money to pay for things, but it's still very much in beta. No. It's not public. And the way that you actually get the cards is you purchase boosters. So you basically you purchase these packs. They come with a certain number of cards, and then you open them, and then they just get added into your digital collection. And then You don't have to purchase them because it's a free-to-play game. You can play games over and over and over again and grind for... Is it called gold?
But what I like about Magic the Gathering Arena is it's giving me an opportunity to see all those cards and explore them at a decent price, which is nothing, than I wouldn't have got if like I was playing them when I'd have to like just buy all the boosters and then kind of be like, all right, so that's how that works, or buy another intro deck and be like, oh, okay, well this is how that works with that.
But that's one of the best things about digitization of board and card games sometimes. Like I'm thinking like Star Realms, for example, the expansions for Star Realms digitally are a lot cheaper than the actual physical copy. Or in Carcassonne, which I've played as well. I've played all the expansions of Carcassonne like online, but to buy the actual physical hard copy would be a lot more expensive.
So I've only just started, like once I got used to how the game actually plays, which I think is it's the best playing Magic online that I've played recently.
Yeah, definitely.
Or ever played. Like now I'm getting to the point now I'm going, right, what the cards that I've got out of all the boosters that I've got, what kind of deck can I make? So I've started actually curating and building decks, and the deck building works a lot like Hearthstone does. Like you have this book which you kind of flick through and everything's filtered like of colours, and you can filter whether they're like spells or legendary and all that kind of stuff. And it's really handy because it does all the ratios for you. So one of the big things in Magic, obviously, unlike Hearthstone, is that you pull the mana from your deck rather than it being accumulated just naturally over time. Yeah. So when you're building a deck, it works out all the ratios for you in terms of, right, you've got quite a lot of stuff that takes quite a lot of power to bring out of your deck. So maybe you should think about putting like less expensive cards into your deck, or you've put a lot of spells into your deck, so maybe you should think about putting more creatures into it. So that's what I like about it. Like it takes a bit of that experimentation out of your hand. So when I used to build decks in the physical space, like I'd have to do lots of gold fishing and playing with friends to work out what the balance of the deck was like. But here it gives you a very good picture of how that deck is going to work before you even start playing it.
That's actually, I imagine, a real major selling point for this, because I can imagine you using that as a resource to help you build your deck, your physical copy, say, of your deck. The fact that you've got something here that works it out for you.
There are fan service stuff that you can hit up online to do that kind of thing for you, but it's nice in this regard because they've just made some really nice quality of life changes. Like, so in the booster pack, sometimes you get blank cards that are like a blank legendary or a blank rare.
I love that, by the way.
And so there was this one card that I wanted to put into my deck, but I only had one copy of it. But when I clicked it again, it said, do you want to turn one of your blank cards into this card? And it can't be reversed. And I thought, yes, brilliant. So that means that I don't have to buy loads and loads of boosters in order to get 4 copies of that one card I really like. I can use the wild cards that I've been given and other booster packs. I think that's a genuinely nice like quality of life thing they've put in.
That to me is a part of that build up of trust in those free-to-play mechanics. Like, I'm never sitting there thinking, well, the reason that I'm not pulling this card from my boosters is because the deck knows that that's really what I'm trying to get hold of. Because there's no point, because I could just use one of these wild cards to just go and grab it. It almost gives you an advantage over the paper version in that if there's one legendary card that you're like, I want to build a deck around this, I've got everything except that legendary. I'm not trawling eBay or whatever for a physical copy. I'm just like, right, that's the one card I want. I know I've got one of these wild cards. Boom, that's the one I'm going to have. And it means that it gives me that a little bit more flexibility to go ahead and actually build out one of those decks. I think that is a really smart move that goes a very long way to mitigating the fact that there's like no trading or anything like that, which there is in something like Magic Online. Mucking about with them, there are some really cool different synergies that you can muck about with. Like, Sam, you were telling me like about some weird horse thing that you...
Oh, there's a before we came here tonight, there's this horse. I think it's in the Dominaria deck, and basically it's like a 5/5, and if you have another horse, then if you have another one of those horses in play, then it gives that horse and all horses you get indestructible, which essentially means that anything that would act on that horse and bring its life to 0 via combat or via a damage effect doesn't kill that horse. So it's effectively, it cannot be destroyed unless by sort of sorcery.
Which is cool.
It's just cool. But it also has another effect on it that says whenever you gain life, you can generate another 5/5 horse. And so this person I was playing, by the 3rd or 4th turn, because they built their deck around this horse, by about the 3rd or 4th turn, I was facing up to 20 indestructible horses. And it was just the most crazy... it was absolutely mental. Like, and half of me was like, oh, Christ. But the other half of me was...
Yeah.
Was it like the Ride of the Rohirrim and the Lord of the Rings?
Exactly. It was like, well, there's only a couple on the hill. They'll be fine. Oh my God. And before I knew it, there was 20 of them just on the field. It's like, oh my God, this mad horse wizard.
Yeah.
Do you know what a group of horses is called?
A
library.
A group of horses. A library. No. Well, if you measure a horse in hands, are they called fingers? A fist.
A glove.
A fist of horses.
A mittens.
Well, there's different names. It's called a team, a harass, a rag, that's for colts, or in your context, Sam, it would be a string, which is a group belonging to or used by one individual. So a string of horses.
String of horses. Brought me down.
Oh, bless
How long's a piece of string?
Good.
But yeah, Magic the Gathering Arena continues to be a delight, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens later on this year when Richard Garfield, the guy who invented Magic, brings out his own online card game.
Yes.
Called Artifact,
yes.
which he's been working on with Valve.
That's the Dota one, right?
Yeah, and this will interest Dan. Is that Richard Garfield says that he's apparently been making this game in his head since he realised that Magic the Gathering would never make an interesting virtual game. And that's from the guy who made it.
I mean, I'd agree with that, but, you know.
We met Toby.
We did meet
did?
Toby. We did, finally. He didn't like
and
you, did
he instantly burst into tears.
Well, you guys are rather scary looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is adorable.
You both showed up at once. He was not ready. He doesn't do well with meeting brand new people.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and I thought we also interrupted him watching Pointless, which was...
Yeah, dude, he loves Pointless. Don't know what it is about Pointless, but he loves it.
So what's is that like a a children's show? Is it a children? Yeah, but is it a children's show? Or?
No, Pointless. No. Pointless is a quiz show.
Oh, okay. For like CBC.
It's a great quiz show.
CBBC sort of thing.
No, it's just it's an adults quiz show.
Oh, okay.
Pete, have you ever watched Family Fortunes or Family Feud, as it's called in America, because they're a combative nation?
The one where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So you know the idea. What's the basic idea around Family Fortunes?
It's.
What people
the number of people a number of people are surveyed, and then they get the most popular answers, and then that nice man who I think he nearly went to jail for a crime, but it was all right. He was all right in the end. He says, and our survey says
that's libel.
And then
so people are answering survey questions in order to get the most points. Yeah. So Pointless is the inverse of that. So 100 people are asked a question. But in order for you to make it through the rounds in Pointless, you have to get the answers that people will not have said. Ideally, that no one has said.
Okay.
Ideally, it will be pointless.
Pointless.
Oh, that's clever.
But I do like the fact with that show that so much of the show is built around calling itself Pointless. This is our Pointless show. These are our Pointless guests.
You won the Pointless trophy.
It's brilliant. I love that so much of the show is just built around how silly that sounds.
That's great. And Toby's good at this?
For some reason, he loves it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the colours or the sound. He loves a bit Pointless.
Or the sound of Alexandra Armstrong's voice.
But he's glued to it. But yeah, you guys met... Well, Sam, you've met Toby once before. That was when he was going through his I just want to hit my dad in the face all the time phase.
Yeah, well, I showed him that.
I will say this, though, Dan. He's got your eyes.
Maybe you should give him back.
That's awful.
Dear. Great. That was Staying In with Daniel Frost, Peter Willington, Chris Darby and myself, Sam Turner. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Mixcloud, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever on earth you get your podcasts from. If you'd like to leave us a review too, then go ahead. Why not? Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to all the things we covered in this episode, plus details on how you can get in touch with us. stayinginpod@gmail.com, Twitter @stayinginpod. There's links to our Steam Curator and Board Game Geek pages on the website as well. And, as usual, thank you very much for listening.